You see, with Donald Trump, sometimes you have to put his various lawsuits side by side and next to each other. And only then can you see that he's not telling the truth to a state court judge in Miami in a brand new filing that he just made in order to distract attention from his failed trip to Switzerland, his failed attempt at taking over Greenland, his failed economic and immigration policies, his Jack Smith testimony that's going on against him right now. To distract against all of that, he filed the suit to take on Jamie Dimond and the JP Morgan Chases of the world because he got thrown out, or at least a bunch of his lower level bank accounts got debanked by JP Morgan Chase. And it must have been because they don't like conservative values and MAGA principles. But when you lay another lawsuit next to it that they filed on behalf of another Trump entity called Truth Social against the Washington Post about reporting about a nefarious $8 million loan, you see things don't line up exactly, especially about whether they were or were not debanked by JP Morgan Chase at any one particular time. And when you have somebody who's been an adjudged fraudster who still has a court-appointed monitor over the Trump organization for committing fraud, when another series of his companies, including one that's a plaintiff in this new Miami lawsuit, the Trump payroll entity, having been convicted of tax evasion and tax fraud in New York all around the same time while Donald Trump is leading a Jan 6 insurrection and gets indicted, which is conveniently omitted from the new complaint. This may be the reason that JP Morgan didn't want to be in bed with Donald Trump and put him on a blacklist, apparently. A blacklist so dark and so black, even he can't get off of. I'm Michael Popok. You're on MeidasTouch Network. Brand new suit. I've got it up and a couple of head scratchers about it. And then I want to compare it to this case that was filed in Sarasota, Florida, same lawyers, I believe, against the Washington Post for some reporting about an $8 million loan that came in through a Putin affiliate into Truth Social. Okay, now what's this case about? This case is about apparently a series of kind of entities controlled by Donald Trump, not named Truth Social, including his payroll entity, a company that owns a building in Chicago, Miami restaurant hospitality, couple of low-level golf courses of his, all got debanked in 2021. He also found out, and he had to disclose it in the complaint, that he and members of his family are on a blacklist put there by JP Morgan Chase for their, telling banks, you better be careful, know your customer, and anti-money laundering laws may apply. Donald Trump doesn't like that. So he had to disclose that he got blacklisted. But in doing so, and in bringing it on behalf of these entities in this state court, he's now opened himself up to massive discovery and depositions to explain himself. See, he glosses over and never mentions the following facts that would have went into a bank's decision to take him out of the bank. One, a $450 million fraud investigation, which led to a fraud judgment that's been affirmed on appeal, the judgment part, not the amount, by a New York appellate court, that after a several-week trial in which a trial court judge found that Donald Trump and his family committed persistent fraud for more than 10 years in the operation of the Trump organization. That would be a factor for a bank. See, I've worked on Wall Street. I've worked on onboarding customers. I've worked with compliance. I kind of know my way around, know your customer regulations, anti-money laundering, the U.S. Patriot Act. These are the things that banks and financial services companies, it's what keeps them up at night, yeah? Who their customer is and where they're getting their money from. So if you're like opening up an application and you send it over to compliance and they run it through, Donald Trump comes up as a fraudster. Okay, Donald Trump comes up as somebody whose other companies, including Trump Payroll Corporation, which is one of the plaintiffs here, you can see it there. I'll put it up on Substack. They were adjudged at a 17-count criminal tax fraud case in New York, never overturned, still on the books. So if you're the banking agent, you're the loan officer, you're the person setting up the relationship, you have to fill out an application, by the way. Have you ever been convicted of fraud or dishonesty? Yes. or a judge to be a fraudster or dishonest? Yes. Okay. Has any of your entities or companies for which you are a shareholder ever been convicted of a fraud? Yes. Okay. Put you down for a yes. Are any of your companies under court-ordered monitorship by a former federal judge because of the fraud? Yes. Okay. Barbara Jones running the Trump organization as a monitor. All right. I'll put you down for a yes there. Have you ever been indicted for a crime? Yes. How many times? 3 times. How many total counts? 55 total counts. Related to what? Is anything about dishonesty? Yes. The interference with the election. Okay. I'll put you down for a yes. Do you see why a bank, all the things that are missing from the complaint, may not want to do business with you? And they didn't even tell the truth in the complaint itself, because they say that in 2021, they were debanked. And the reason for it was because of unsubstantiated woke beliefs of the bank, and they didn't want to do business with a MAGA. They also skip over Jan 6th. Okay. So they say that in 2021, JP Morgan Chase provided them with notice that these bank accounts would be closed. What they leave out is that JP Morgan Chase also allowed them to open a bank account originally for Truth Social. That's why Truth Social's name's not here. They talk about being on a blacklist, and Trump's on the blacklist and other family members, but the other family members are not listed here. And what this is really about, I think when it all comes out, and it will come out because of the filing by Donald Trump in discovery, in depositions, as JP Morgan and Dimond defend themselves, I think what's going to come out is this whole nefarious thing reported in the Washington Post in 2023 about an $8 million loan when Truth Social was on the balls of its ass financially. It wasn't able to close on their big major mega deal because the Biden SEC was blocking it. They needed cash desperately. So Patrick Orlando, a fraudster involved with them, went out and found them an $8 million loan from Paxum Bank in Domenica, which is normally used by the porn industry, through a newly created family trust, right? Called ES Family Trust, which reporting tracked back to Anton Postelnikov, who is affiliated with Putin. So Putin-affiliated money coming through a porn bank in Dominica ends up being dumped into the bank accounts, almost empty, of Truth Social that Donald Trump owned. And it was all reported in the Washington Post. Donald Trump didn't like that story either. You wouldn't think he would you? So he sued in Sarasota, Florida. And this is what he said in that particular lawsuit. Let me just get it up here, put it up on the screen for you so you know what I'm talking about. And here we go. This is a complaint that was filed in 2023 against the Washington Post, filed by another law firm. Actually, it wasn't this Brito. And it was filed in May of 2023. And here's what they said in paragraph 25 at the time. To make matters worse, after reading the Washington Post article, Truth Social's banker, JP Morgan Chase, contacted Truth Social to inquire about the year-plus-old transactions with Paxum Bank. Prior to this call, JP Morgan had expressed concern with the transfers. The calls evidenced their concerns about their business, and that got published by the Washington Post. So there was still bank accounts in 2023 at JP Morgan Chase. So they weren't completely debanked. They kind of leave that out. That's why Truth Social is not listed here as a plaintiff. That's why the kids and the family business and Truth and Trump organization are not listed. This is why they tried to file it in Miami-Dade Circuit Court. Okay, this is going to likely be removed to federal court. But they wanted the bombshell headline of being able to write whatever they wanted in state court, which frankly is easier to maintain a lawsuit like this for a long period of time than a federal judge who's going to look at this like, are you kidding me? I'm going to dismiss this on my own. Let's talk candidly about something that no one wants to talk about. What happens when you pass on? Because unfortunately, it's going to happen to you and me, but we can be prepared with Trust and Will online estate planning. Estate planning is something many people put off, even when they know it's important. If you're a parent, a homeowner, spouse, or caring for aging parents, it may be time to start thinking about having a plan in place, especially when it comes to decisions like guardianship. Trust and Will makes estate planning easier to approach. Their online platform provides a step-by-step guided process. So even if you don't know where to start or feel overwhelmed by questions, you can create an estate plan in as little as 30 minutes. They also offer optional one-on-one support from attorneys in your state. And estate planning isn't just for people with significant assets. Everyone has something to leave behind. Trust and Will believes estate planning should be accessible to everyone, which is why they're committed to making it affordable today and valuable tomorrow. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones today, tomorrow, and beyond with Trust and Will, the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/legalaf and get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/legalaf to get your 20% off. trustandwill.com/legalaf. So they file in state court on purpose to get the press, using Alejandro Brito, the lawyer of last resort for Donald Trump. He's represented Melania against Michael Wolff, the journalist. He went after Michael Cohen. He's handling the case against Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal when Donald Trump didn't like that they published about the Epstein birthday book with his card inserted inside, right? But now that you lay the Sarasota lawsuit in 2023 against this, now you see that, and this is what I'm sure JP Morgan will bring out in discovery and in depositions of Donald Trump, that this is a lie, that they weren't completely debanked, and that the reason they're on the blacklist has probably more to do with fraud convictions, Jan 6 never mentioned in the complaint, then and this $8 million loan, than woke beliefs. Who's going to believe that? Not us. So let me play you a clip first of Dimond criticizing Donald Trump in the last couple of days about a new policy. Let's play the clip.
One of President Trump's recent proposals that would directly affect you, he's doing it to improve affordability, is to impose a 10% cap on credit card rates. Is that a bad idea?
It would be an economic disaster. And I'm not making up because our business, we would survive it, by the way. You would, if you, in the worst case, you'd have to have a drastic reduction of the credit card business. I mean drastic, I mean like 10%, I mean like 80%. It would remove credit from 80% of Americans, and that is their backup credit. But I have a great idea. Since there's a huge disagreement on this one, between Republicans and Democrats, I think we should test it. And in my view, and I can't do this, because it'd be antitrust, but the government can do it. They should force all the banks to do it in 2 states, Vermont and Massachusetts, and see what happens. and then I think the left will learn everyone who thinks manipulating price will learn a real lesson. And the people crying the most won't be the credit card companies. It'll be the restaurants, the retailers, the travel companies, the schools, the municipalities, because people will miss their water payments, their this payment and that payment. It would be something else to watch. I think they should test it.
Well, President Trump may be determined to test it more broadly.
Well, then, okay, whatever it is, we'll deal with it. I think it's wrong for the government to get involved extensively in pricing of stuff, but I got to deal with the world I got.
It's kind of interesting.
We're going to give them at one point real analysis on the effects of this. We've given some, but not a lot.
It's kind of interesting. When I ask you something that directly affects JP Morgan, you say it will be a complete economic disaster.
No,
when I speak more broadly about geopolitics, you're very reluctant to criticize the president.
Well, first of all, one I know exactly. The other one is more qualitative, how it's going to work, what are the pieces, what's their intent, how are people going to respond. They're not the same thing. But the economic, when you believe something to be true, you should say that. And so the economic of the card thing, we'll see.
Do you think CEOs...
But the other thing, I've not seen anyone, really, Republicans, senators, businesses, banks, credit unions, community banks, anyone think it's a good idea.
And here's the clip of Donald Trump fighting back about a day before they filed this lawsuit against JP Morgan and Jamie Dimond in particular, who he once wanted to be his Treasury Secretary. Play the clip.
Sir, Jamie Dimond said today that it's not a great idea to be chipping away at the Fed's independence. Do you think Jamie Dimon's wrong about that?
Yeah, I think it's fine what I'm doing. We have a bad Fed person. He was extended by Biden. And, yeah, I think he's wrong. I think it's wrong. He's done a bad job. We should have lower rates. Jamie Dimon probably wants higher rates. Maybe he makes more money that way.
Now, Patrick Mincy, a lawyer who's been on with me on Legal AF, he alerted me to the Sarasota case because he's involved over there. He represents Will Wilkerson, a whistleblower, a co-founder of Truth Social, that's in a case against Donald Trump related to defamation, related to this $8 million loan, which the Washington Post ran with. Here's Patrick Mincy talking about the nefarious loan that is at the heart, I'm sure, or should be at the heart of the blacklisting of the family that's raised in this new complaint by Donald Trump. Play the clip.
These loans came into the company at a time when the company was struggling to keep the lights on. And but for these loans, the company would have gone under. Mr. Wilkerson brought this to the attention through counsel, through federally protected programs, to the Department of Justice, to the Securities and Exchange Commission, and through Mr. Wilkerson's whistleblowing, federal law enforcement, through the Southern District of New York, through the Southern District of Florida, in a joint Homeland Security and FBI task force investigation called Operation Trust Social, began to look into those loans. All of this is a part of the public court record, and all of this was revealed in the spring of 2023 when several media outlets, including The Guardian, The Washington Post, The New York Post, and others, brought it to public attention. Mr. Wilkerson, since then, has been the subject of an historic retaliatory lawfare campaign initiated by Trump Media and Technology Group. That defamation claims have been brought against him in an attempt to intimidate him and to silence him. And we have been honored to represent and defend Mr. Wilkerson throughout that process, and are pleased to be speaking with you today following a Florida court's recent dismissal of those defamation claims brought against him. Auditors were asking questions about the origins and nature of this, and what our investigation revealed was that the ultimate source of the money was an individual named Anton Postolnikov via a suspicious trust called the ES Family Trust, and through an entity called Paxum Bank, which as you alluded, was a Domenica Caribbean-based bank. It's not a bank in the traditional sense as we would refer to it. It's really an online payment processing entity catering to the online adult industry, pornography industry, that wires this money into the Chase TMTG accounts. Mr. Wilkerson is the one who has access and purview into these accounts. He sees the money hit. He begins asking questions. The other co-founders are asking questions. Ultimately, the company keeps the money, does not give it back. And that's how we are here today.
Who made the decision? Wait. Who made the decision in the Trump world to keep the money and to approve the loan?
At the time, the company was being run by Chief Executive Officer Devin Nunes. And of course, President Trump, then Private Citizen Trump, was the largest owner of Trump Media and Technology Group.
So I'm in Miami. I'll follow this suit closely. I'll let you know when JP Morgan Chase and their big-time lawyers show up to try to move the case over to federal court. Now, one of the things that may stop it is the little trick here that I'm going to point out that Donald Trump did. He added as a plaintiff a Florida entity, Trump Miami Resort Management. That's the hook for Miami for Miami. Then he's going to have to try to argue that JP Morgan Chase Bank NA, which is based in Delaware and New York, somehow has a Florida residency in order to keep it in state court, or that Jamie Dimon does. I just don't see it happening. I think this gets quickly moved to federal court, assigned to a federal judge, and I'm hoping it doesn't get dismissed too early, because I want to see I want to see all of the discovery and Donald Trump in the hot seat to explain the two different lawsuits and the fact that he's lying to the court here. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. Slide over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Help us over there. Hit that free subscribe button. So till my next report, this is Michael. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.